What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Mafia podcast. And we are in the middle of a quick mini series here where we're talking about the NBA Eastern and Western conferences and the playoff picture before the season begins on July 31st. My name is Jordan Jaika, aka Dr. Fantasy, and I am here with the Fantasy Caveman. And today, our topic of discussion is the Western Conference. So, what I'm going to do first is quickly go through the standings. Number one right now, the Los Angeles Lakers. 5.5 games behind them are the LA Clippers. The 3 seed are the Denver Nuggets. Number 4, Utah Jazz. Number 5, one of the big surprises, the Oklahoma City Thunder. The 6 seed currently is the Houston Rockets. The 7 seed is the Dallas Mavericks, and the last playoff team as of right now is the Memphis Grizzlies. The teams that are currently out of the playoff picture that are going to be playing, one of the 22 teams playing on July 31st, the Portland Trailblazers, who are 3.5 games out of 8th place, the New Orleans Pelicans, who are 3.5 games out of 8th place, the Sacramento Kings, who I don't think a lot of people realize, and De'Aaron Fox was talking about how disrespected they feel. They're currently only 3.5 games behind the Grizzlies, actually tied with the Trailblazers and Pelicans. And then the Spurs are currently 4 games out of the 8 seed, so lots to talk about there. But let's kick it off. Who is your favorite right now in the Western Conference?
You just gonna try to get this out of the way?
Gotta get it out of the way.
I'm going probably as far as the win, probably among the minority, but I'm going with the Houston Rockets. I'm rolling. You knew this coming.
I didn't know you were gonna say that they could win the entire conference.
That would be my pick. Obviously, lots of question marks with them. I think you can say that pretty much about any of these teams. So closely grouped together. I personally don't think the Lakers. I don't think they're I don't think they're gonna make it out of the West. I just think excuse me. So much hype around having LeBron and Anthony Davis. I just think, first of all, I think coming out of this, I think if you're talking about teams that are going to be most affected by this whole layoff, I personally think the Lakers are going to be one of the teams that are most severely affected by this. They have a lot of new pieces there that they're still trying to get gelled together. I just think I don't know. I'm not big on the Lakers make out, and I don't know if I should go over every team that's currently headed to the Houston Rockets and why I don't think that they're gonna beat them. But I know what you were talking about where you're going on about how you like Denver this year, and that's actually who the Rockets would play in the first round if it ended. And as I was talking about before we went on, I personally think Denver is a tad overrated. So you think Jokic is no doubt a superstar, he's a beast. But I just think if you're talking about second best player on the Denver Nuggets, we both agree it's Jamal Murray, clearly. And if you look at Jamal Murray's numbers this year, they're not that good. Like I just think I just don't think he's that guy. I just think that don't think they have the offensive juice. They play solid defense, but I just don't think they have the offensive juice to really do much, especially not against the offensive juggernaut of the Houston Rockets, and led by James Harden and Russell Westbrook, who. You knew this was coming. You knew this.
You keep talking. I'm gonna drink my water.
I'll drink my tea here. Well, I'll just quickly say that as the season has gone on, you will hate to admit this, but as the season has gone on, Russell Westbrook and James Harden have gelled more as the season has gone on. If you don't admit that, then there's no hope for you, and you're just put it by your hand.
Okay, that's enough. I'm talking about the Rockets now.
Okay.
So, I will say that Russell Westbrook and James Harden together has worked better than I expected, but I must also say my expectations were in the garbage. So, I mean, it's not really saying much that they've exceeded my expectations. I mean, not only do I think the Denver Nuggets would beat the Houston Rockets in the first round, I mean, I've said this before. I thoroughly believe you at least have to be a defensive team to win the NBA championship. You can't just completely punt on defense. And the I don't think that Russell Westbrook or James Harden will ever win an NBA championship. I think they're too selfish. I don't think that they play team defense, and I don't think their games are well rounded enough to where they can be a part of a championship culture. So I've said that before. We're not here to debate the Houston Rockets. You love the Houston Rockets.
I said enough. This is the whole West Conference thing, not just the Heat Rockets show. So.
But I mean, yeah. So I like the Denver Nuggets. I've mentioned, but I'm big into defense. I just think it's one of those things. In every sport, there's things for me that are really important. In the NFL, I really dive into head coaches because I think it's so important to have a top-notch head coach. You very rarely see an NFL team win the Super Bowl with a terrible head coach. I can't really think of a terrible head coach that's won a Super Bowl. And for me in the NBA, it's all about the defense. In today's game, fans talk about offensive juggernauts so much that they don't realize there's teams that can stop those offensive juggernauts. So that's one of the reasons I like the Nuggets. They were second in the conference in terms of opponents' points per game. I mean, I will say that I don't think their scoring is strong enough to go to the finals. I don't think that they would beat the Lakers. They had the third fewest points in the entire conference scored. So I mean, that's how weak they were. It wasn't just like, they were middle of the pack. I mean, they struggle at times to score, and they don't really have solid options behind Jokic and Jamal. Jamal Murray is a solid player, but he's very inconsistent. He kind of is all over the place at times. They have Gary Harris, who's a solid role player, but no one really to write home about. But yeah, I mean, I like the Denver Nuggets to beat the Rockets just because I think they could shut them down. But my favorite still, going back to who my favorite is, I mean, I'll go chalk, and I do think it's the Lakers. As much as I hate LeBron James, I mean, he has the championship pedigree. Him and Anthony Davis gelled together, and now LeBron has struggled sometimes at the end of the year with, he had those cramps in the finals a few years ago. I mean, he's gonna be fully rested now, though. I mean, he is charged up and ready to go. I think he really wants to bring home a championship to the Lakers, who have struggled for the past few years before he arrived. So I really think that he wants to bring a championship home to LA, and I think that he has a good chance to do it this year. And and I could say it. Looking through the Western Conference, there's a lot of teams that have great records. But when I look at individually each team and how they match up with the Lakers, the Nuggets, great defense. They could never outscore the Lakers. I like the Utah Jazz. They have some potential there. The Oklahoma City Thunder, too young, too inexperienced. I don't think that they'd be able to keep up scoring.
Chris Paul.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Paul at this point, he is what he is. He's a great distributor. He's a great leader, a great point guard. I mean, one of the best pure point guards of all time. But I can't see them. The only team that I'd say is going to compete with the Lakers, I would say, is the Clippers, in my opinion. I mean, I think the Clippers have a good balance, with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. They have superstars. They have great role players. They play great defense. They can score. So I think it would be pretty cool to see an LA Western Conference Finals as well.
Totally. Yeah. It's funny that we got this for a show. We didn't even mention the Clippers yet. So. Yeah. I just think with the Clippers, I think the thing to keep in mind is while they do have like the superstar potential to match the Lakers with Kawhi and Paul George, I don't know if I trust them to stay healthy. Both Kawhi and Paul George have been battling injuries this
They've
entire
had
year.
months of load management now, though.
Oh man, we all love that. We all love that. I think when you get down to it, I don't really like the Lakers, but I had to pick between the Lakers and the Clippers. I would probably go the Lakers. You know, as much as I hate LeBron, you won't find somebody. It'd be hard pressed to find somebody that hates LeBron as much as I hate LeBron. Can't stand him at all. Never have liked him ever. But there's no denying how great he is. I mean, even if you hate him, you can't deny his greatness. Unfortunately. But yeah, if I would choose the Lakers over the Clippers if it came down to it. I mean, in all reality, if we're being realistic here, it's really something. If anybody outside the Lakers and the Clippers meet in the Western Conference Finals, it'd be really surprising. Everyone's fully expecting them to meet. Quickly, we haven't really talked about Dallas or Memphis yet, who have the 7th and 8th seed. With Dallas, as we mentioned in a live that Luka Doncic is out of shape right now, which I find to be very fun. Obviously, I think by the time the season rolls back around, he'll obviously be shape. But I just think Dallas is a team where, like, Luka has been vaulted into superstar status so fast. And they have Kangas there, and they have some solid role players around them, like Tim Hardaway, he's one of the more interesting figures in all the NBA. Because here's a guy where he can go for 30 points with 9 threes one night, and then the next will score 2 points on 1 of 15 shooting.
Yep.
So he's a very interesting name, which we'll see what happens. But I just think with Dallas, I just don't think with Porzingis and with Doncic, I don't think they've had enough time together to really gel and form that can take down in the top seeds.
Yep.
And plus you got Porzingis, who's struggling to stay healthy this year too. So consider. And Memphis, to me, it is amazing that Memphis is even in this position. Like, if you look at their team outside of John Morant, I can't even
Yeah, Jerron Jackson.
I mean, yeah, you have Jaren Jackson there, I suppose. But if you're thinking of a competitive team in the playoffs, like, your top 2 guys are Morant and Jaren Jackson. Like, I'm sorry, it's to me, it's a similar situation in the West as East. Obviously, we're going to talk about coming how there's all these other teams that are in the mix for the 8th spot. But if Memphis keeps that 8th spot and they end up playing the Lakers, it's a situation where it's just like how I fully expect the Lakers to sweep Memphis, and it's probably not even going to be close. So, yeah, that's what I got to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, so I agree with you actually on the Mavericks. I mean, I think they're one of those teams where if they added one more piece with Luka and Porzingis and you give them another year or 2 together, I mean, I think that Luka at some point will win an NBA championship. I mean, he's crazy talented. What's he, only 21 still? I mean, he's got all the time in the world. I think I really believe that they just need one more secondary score and that they would be good to go. They're a pretty solid defensive team as well. So, yeah, I mean, as far as the Grizzlies go, I mean, they're a great story. They were really expected to be rebuilding this season. So to even be in the position to make the playoffs is really incredible. And, it's hats off to them because they've drafted really well the past 2 years with Morant and Jackson. And a lot of their role players that they picked up have played really well. Dylan Brooks, who I streamed quite a few times in daily and in the few leagues that I'm in. And he's a really good defender.
I recommended him. I've recommended him quite a bit when I've done the recommendations.
Yeah, he goes on hot streaks. He's a great 3-point shooter, plays nice defense. Valchiconis is their center. He's a very solid starting center, plays good defense down low. They're just not a contender yet. They're too young, too inexperienced, and they just don't have pieces to make a far playoff run, in my opinion. Now, if I had to pick, and I know who you're going to pick to be your 8 seed, but I really think that if it was the Grizzlies versus, if we're going between the Grizzlies, the Trailblazers, the Pelicans, the Kings, and then we have the Spurs. Those are the ones that are going to be fighting for the 8 seed. My choice is the Portland Trailblazers. They arguably have. They probably have the best backcourt in all of the NBA with Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum.
Ooh, do you want to talk about the Rockets again?
Yeah. Okay. Straight from a talent perspective, I'd give it to Westbrook and Harden. So I'll put the Trailblazers second. That's fair. I won't argue with you on that one. Just from a straight talent perspective, if I was building a team, I'd rather have Damian Lillard over those guys. But yeah, so you have Lillard and McCollum, and I just think with those two guys alone, and Damian Lillard is one of those superstars where he has ice in his veins. Like he has the killer instinct. And you talked about that earlier with Bradley Beal, who we haven't seen enough from Beal yet, I think, to say that, but we've seen Lillard, in the playoffs now too, really take over games. And I think that he could take over a series and carry them to 2 straight wins, especially against an inexperienced team like the Grizzlies. So, and not to mention, they don't even just have Lillard and McCollum. They have Hassan Whiteside, who really came into his own this year as a really solid defensive. He's averaged 15 rebounds this year. One of the bigger deals, I think, too, is that Nurkic, their other big man, has been injured, and it's actually been rumored that he's going to be ready for the season once it does start. So, they might have the best big man pair in all of the playoffs if those two are playing next to each other from a defensive standpoint. Whiteside and Nurkic don't really play great offense, but they're both really great defenders at the big position. So I would pick the Portland Trailblazers at this point, and I'll let you talk about who I am assuming you're going to choose.
Quickly before I move on mine, Portland. I like Portland, and I personally think there's a chance that Memphis could fall. I know they're up, but there's still a chance that Memphis could fall, and it could be Portland or Orleans or even Sacramento and somebody else. But obviously you know where I'm going with this, and for me it's gonna be the Pelicans. How this is worked out could not have worked any better for the Pelicans and how they're restarting the season. You look at it, up and down that roster, there's just so much young talent. Like as far as young talent, they have the most young talent probably up and down that roster. Starting with Zion, who reports may or may not be doing cocaine. I don't know, but
that's what our live episode said.
Yeah. So you look at it, you got Zion, then you got Lonzo Ball, who is, no pun intended, been balling this year.
I get it.
If he's coming easily signed this year, I'm thoroughly impressed with him this year. And you got Brandon Ingram. You got a bunch of other guys on that team, and I know the biggest knock on them is going to be their inexperience. They're young. They haven't played it together, but I just think, they're so talented. They can sneak into the 8th spot in the West. I'm not going to go out and be insanely crazy and say they're going to beat the Lakers in this year. That's just not going to happen. But I will say, I think they can take 2 from the Lakers.
Oh my God. Woo!
Now I know you want the Pelicans to get that 8th spot.
I wouldn't mind. I really enjoy watching the Pelicans, obviously. It would be kind of cool to see old LeBron versus a young Zion on the playoffs. That'd be kind of a cool matchup to watch. I mean, I like the Pelicans. Don't get me wrong. I think that they're one of the teams that actually are impacted by this the most in a negative way because they were really starting to catch fire and they were starting to gel with a young team like that. I think there's a lot that goes into chemistry, and they were starting to build that chemistry. So to break that up, I think is really critical for them. So I don't think that they're going to come back and have that natural chemistry. And there's only 8 games in the regular season. It's not like they have a lot of time to put it together. So I like the Pelicans in the future. I would have them in the playoffs next season. But and I actually might pick them to be in the playoffs if we never had this hole because they were starting to really come into their own, and I like the direction they were going in. But I can't see them quite doing it yet. Especially now, if you want to talk about if the Pelicans were the 9 seed and they were playing the Grizzlies, I would probably pick them over the Grizzlies. But if it was them versus the Trailblazers, I would still pick the Trailblazers.
That's fair. I mean, there's no denying that the chemistry between Damian and CJ is no doubt. But I just think if you're just talking if you're talking from a straight talent perspective, at least to get in to the playoffs, at least I think. I know you. I don't think it impacts them as much as you say it does. Uh, I just think the talent. I just think their natural talent is gonna shine through enough where I fully expect them to either be the 8th seed or be that 9th seed and fighting for a spot. I mean, I just so it's I've said a lot already, but it's just there's so much talent on that team right now.
Yeah.
And
No, I definitely won't deny that.
And I just think when you have that much talent, I know they haven't had a lot of time together, but I personally think this whole thing has helped them as far as chances in. Because I personally because they legit if the season one is normal, they have 3.5 games to make up, and they can't be the 9th and have a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Like they would have had to climb. They would have had to climb both Portland and Memphis
Mm-hmm.
to a shot, and now they only need to be ahead because of tiebreakers. They have the edge on Sacramento, and they have a half game lead on San Antonio, who we haven't talked about yet. Even.
Yeah.
Sacramento doesn't matter, but quickly before we talk to them, because they deserve some recognition as you mentioned with the Hawks, what he said. But I just think I have a feeling it's a very similar to how I feel about it's very not in the same realm, but in terms of talent, I'm a big believer in the talent prevailing to some extent. And it's kind of similar to how I feel about Houston in terms of talent prevailing. You have the talent. You have that Russell Westbrook Harden pairing is just there's so much talent there. I just think with New Orleans, I think it's gonna prevail enough where they're gonna at least be fighting for a spot. They're gonna either be the 8th or 9th seed. They are going to be fighting for conference.
Yep. Yeah, they're a fun team to watch, and you already mentioned it, but let's finish up with our 2 other teams competing, the Sacramento Kings and the San Antonio Spurs. So the Kings actually, De'Aaron Fox, who was probably their best player, came out and said he feels disrespected because nobody's giving him a chance. And they're once again one of those teams. They were one of the hottest teams. I'm looking at the win streaks before everything halted. They were one of the hottest teams in all of the NBA. They were 7-3 in their last 10. The only behind the Oklahoma City Thunder, who were 8-2, and we didn't really discuss that at length. But the Thunder were 8-2 before the season halted, and the Lakers were 8-2 as well. So the Kings were one of the hottest teams in the NBA. I mean, it's just one of those things where I still don't see the talent there with them. in terms of competing with the Trailblazers or even the Pelicans at this point. They have lots of solid role players. I don't think De'Aaron Fox is a superstar. I think he'll work his way into being an all-star point guard, but just lots of solid shooters and Bogdanovic, Buddy Hield, Harrison Barnes. They have some guys, Harry Giles, Rashawn Holmes, Marvin Bagley that comes off the bench. So they have some guys that are solid role players, but I don't think they have the talent yet. And they're one of those teams, if they want to compete, I think that they need to add a few more pieces to really throw themselves in that contention. And then I'll talk about the Spurs, and then you can give your comments on them as well. The Spurs actually, this is a pretty big deal because I don't think the Spurs really have any chance, in my opinion, to make it. But if they do make the playoffs, they'll have the longest playoff make streak in NBA history. I believe it'll be 22 straight seasons. So they'll only tie the record if they don't make it this year, and they won't actually break it. So I just don't see it, though. I mean, they have Murray, who's probably a top 5 defensive point guard in the league, and I really like him. But, in terms of scoring, man, I mean, DeMar DeRozan just is not a number one scoring option. And I respect DeRozan. I think he's a very solid 2 guy on a solid playoff team, not a championship team necessarily. I mean, you saw the Raptors lost him and then won a championship. So he's a solid scorer, but I just don't see, when you look at their starting lineup of Murray, Bryn Forbes, DeMar DeRozan, Trey Lyles, and Patel, they have Rudy Gay and Patty Mills coming off the bench. So, I mean, they have some decent bench players. Bellinelli is there as well. But just, they don't have – it's one of the least talented Spurs team we've probably seen in, over 20 years.
Totally. And yeah, like you just mentioned, they just don't have the talent. Like, it's amazing with that roster that they have. It's really a testament to how great of a coach Greg Popovich is that we're even discussing them at this point as having even a chance at the playoffs with that roster. That's not trying to make it sound like they're a team full of garbage players. They have decent guys, but they just don't have a lot of talented guys with a lot of size. Yeah, looking at the standing there. They have a chance. They have a chance. They're only 4 games back of Memphis. But the issue is
and then those other quickly before you go on too. I mean, they're only half a game behind the Pelicans, Trailblazers, and Kings too. So I mean, they can easily. I mean, it's not like they have no chance. I mean, Greg Popovich knows how to get it done. I mean, they're only half a game out of being playoff contender. So.
That's true, but the also thing is they have to fight off 3 other teams
to
have a chance. I just think maybe I wouldn't even give them the edge, Sacramento. I just don't think they're as good as any of the 3 teams ahead of them. Greg Pop, it's like I said, it just speaks to Greg Popovich as a coach that they're even in this situation. You see the record at 21-36 is really surprising to see out of the Spurs at this point in the year. I think that has very little to do with Greg Popovich. I think he's doing an amazing job as a coach. And just to wrap this up, I don't know if you were going to mention it or not, but the team probably the team that has the biggest gripe from this whole situation is probably the Phoenix Suns, I would say. Mm-hmm. If you're looking at them, I mean, I'm looking at they're not going to be brought back when the season resumes. But if you look at it, I mean, they're 6 games out of behind Memphis. If you think about it, you only have to be within 4.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they're only 6 out now. They would have had to leap
a lot of teams.
4 teams, but it's still not out of the realm of possibility, especially given the fact that they would probably end up playing 1 or 2 of those that were ahead of them at some point with the 8 games left. They probably would have ended up playing a couple of them. Yeah. So I just think that's the biggest that's the biggest thing. Is I just think Phoenix has a legitimate gripe, at this whole restart. Now, it also says because they're an interesting group. I mean, the Suns play absolutely no defense
Yeah.
ever. Can't remember the last time. They just don't play defense. But we're talking hypothetical here because they're not brought back. But let's say if they were brought back, if they would have been brought back, I wouldn't, even though they're far back, I wouldn't count them out simply because that I think it's gonna be a few years, but Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton pairing is gonna work very well for them.
Yeah.
In the future. So it is really a shame that Phoenix is not going to be included in this restart.
Yeah, I mean, they're probably trying to keep it down to as few teams as possible. I mean, it would have definitely been challenging for the Suns, but yeah, I mean, I agree that they should have at least probably been given the chance to come back, and they voted no for the season restart because they weren't going to be included.
Very, very understandably. I don't blame them.
I can't blame them either, but I think that that's probably going to be the most exciting part of this, the regular season piece of the NBA, is really tracking who gets the 8 seed here in the Western Conference. So overall, I think I'll end it here with my final prediction is the Raptors versus the Lakers in the NBA Finals, and I have the Toronto Raptors going back to back.
Ooh, wow. I get to mention it one. All right.
Go ahead. Now it's you. Who do you got?
Okay.
You're going chalk right here. Oh, no, you're not going to.
Obviously, as people know from when we did our pod on the East, I'm a big Bucks fan. I live 30 minutes from Milwaukee. I'm going Bucks side of the East, no doubter there. And I will go on record. The Houston Rockets will meet the Bucks in the NBA Final, and the Bucks will take it in 6 games.
6 games. I didn't give a game. I'll say 7-game series for the Lakers and the Raptors.
Bucks over the Rockets 6.
All right, there you have it. That is how we're going to end this series then. So thank you guys for watching. We appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe to the Fantasy Mafia YouTube channel. Like us on Facebook and check out our website at thefantasymafia.com. We really appreciate it, and we will see you guys next time.
Peace.